Hi there and welcome to episode 95 of the ADHD Adults podcast. I'm James Brown, as usual. I'm joined by a man who was almost certainly actually a Lewis Carroll character, Dr. Alex Connor, and also Alice, if the looking glass you went through was a funfair mirror, Mrs ADHD. Alex, hi.
Well, you're more like Lewis Carroll himself, James. Just saying. You might want to Google that because I can't explain it.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're pointing at, Alex, and
was
it's
he a
not
pedo?
correct.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that James is a paedophile.
I mean, but you're not saying I'm not.
I think last week I compared you to Jimmy Savile.
Yep. Yeah. So there's now a theme which obviously is going to run on Discord. Yeah.
Not even favourably.
I can imagine the t-shirt mock-ups that are going to come out of this couple of episodes. Brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
But I want to know what the Lewis Carroll thing is.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I was just desperately trying not to make it that dark. Bloody hell.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And Mrs ADHD, hi.
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Did you want more from me?
Give a bit more information.
Well, no, you normally just say hi. But there's always a pause while Alex remembers this bit is his. It happens every episode. There's a little pause. And normally I have to say blue text Alex or something.
You don't have to. I was leaving a pregnant pause on purpose. I did think there might be a little bit more from Sam than that this time.
No.
A reminder that we started the podcast because for team science, I don't know. But to be honest, I just get lonely on a Thursday. So I've been lying to James about the metrics for nearly 2 years. James doesn't understand podcasts at all because he still thinks it's 1863. And Sam just thinks the microphone is a Chupa Chups. That's the kind of lollipop, Sam, like your cake pops that you used to make.
They're not like cake pops. They're hard.
I think I'm going to scroll to the end. I think you fucking ruined it's next episode. You've ruined one of my Alex's head jokes because I did a Chupa Chups joke for the next episode. I've now got to fucking change that.
Like Chupa Chups.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, this flickering and buzzing fluorescent strip light that seems to be fixed until you sit down and it fucking starts again of a podcast is also a tragedy in 3 parts. We'll discuss how the week between podcasts has been, or 2 days, from our own ADHD perspective, and as people involved in the ADHD community. We'll also answer some of your questions. Remember to send them in on the socials or on Discord, and we'll talk a little bit more about this week's theme, which was metacognition. So as always, I'll ask how your week was, and nobody will ask me. So Sam, how was your week or 2 days?
Mental. I'm really tired. Everything's really busy at the minute. I don't know what else to say. I haven't prepared for this. Why is Alex waving at me?
Oh, I don't know. I was just playing with my hand. That was a
right.
moment. Sorry. I mean, that is literally the signal we do on the podcast, and I was just started waving. My hand did it. I'm so sorry.
I was like, what am I saying that's wrong? Why is he trying to get my attention? Yeah, it's just been really, really busy, and I'm a bit all over the place at the minute. What about you, James?
Oh, what are you doing?
I know she's just look at the glee on her face as she likes doing that. Can I just so Sam, just expanding on Sam's week, she has been ridiculously busy, but that's because Sam does take on a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff needs to be done. But equally, she's doing a lot of stuff for me, like stuff for the company, booking hotels and trains and that for the talks because she's better at it than me. And therefore I do feel a lot of guilt when I see how tired she is or that she's getting headaches because she's been looking at the screen for 15 hours a day. And that does kill me a little bit. Thank you for asking, Sam. Obviously, I was a little bit sad a couple of Thursday episodes ago and probably still a little bit sad when we did the last Thursday episode. I can't remember. So I'm a bit better. I am burnt out as well as Sam. I am tired. And oddly, it's not for me. It's not the traveling for the talks. That's just massively rewarding. And I love that. And actually get work done on the trains, which is good because I find it easier to work on a train than at home. There's less distraction. But just in general, the not having time off, obviously I popped to Ibiza recently, but burnout is a real thing. And obviously we covered it in an episode. And at times in the last week, I felt And this is, whether this is a metacognition thing, I've said several times in the last few months, this is the most tired I've ever been. And it clearly fucking isn't, because I can remember when I graded in Krav Maga and they beasted us for 4 or 6 hours, I couldn't physically move. That's probably the most tired I've ever been. But being a bit tired when I sit on the sofa, I've never been more tired than this. I'm so tired. And it's just not true. We did, since the last episode, we did the Brighton talk, which was lovely. Again, another, I think, a city that's generally very accepting of differences.
Yeah,
And therefore, somebody said, and this was really nice, when we did the talk in Plymouth, a lovely, lovely woman asked a question about why she couldn't wear a Tigger onesie. We were talking about stigma and myths, and she said, I really wanted to wear a Tigger onesie to this talk. Why couldn't I? And it really upset me. And I said, you should be able to. You should be able to wear a Tigger onesie wherever you fucking want to. You know, why should we not be able to be the people we are? And I mentioned this on stage at Brighton. And actually, as you know, my superpower is crying. I cried a little bit on the stage. And afterwards, somebody came up and said, you're in Brighton. You can wear a Tigger onesie here, and nobody would say anything. So maybe the world needs to just be a bit more Brighton, which I think
just
is
move to Brighton. We could all just move to Brighton.
Everybody would
be the only person in the audience in a Tigger onesie, probably.
Exactly. But related to that tiredness, I fucking hate every syllable of what I'm about to say, because Alex said this to me. My ADHD with a lack of sleep goes wild. My symptoms just become uncontrollable. So with a week of having a lack of sleep, so Jack and I were over in Norwich, and I had to get up at kind of 5 a.m. and drive back, and we'd had a few sleepless nights, hadn't we, Sam, kind of over the weekend before that. So there were a good 5 days where I had maybe 4 hours sleep each night, and my God, I couldn't pay attention to anything.
Okay, so you've had a few days to think on that, have you? Because when I said it, James, do you remember what you said?
Yes,
do you remember how clearly you said no?
Yes, I do, and that's why I hate saying this. That's why I hate saying this. I hate saying it because you were fucking right, and obviously, this is a weary acknowledgement of the fact that during the break, when we recorded the last Thursday episode, you said to me that this is because you're not sleeping, and I said no, it isn't. It's completely unrelated. But I've realised
metacognition there, James.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Alex, what about you?
Well, you both know that I got slightly upset recently, and I had to go and talk to you both about. I don't normally get like that, do I? It was bloody annoying. Yeah, and you were lovely, and it helped very much. So I'm just acknowledging that, and that was really good. So I'm feeling quite all right, actually.
That.
No, of course you don't, because I'm nothing to you. I'm less than nothing.
Yeah.
I have overcommitted to a lot, and had to turn my computer off to stop hyperventilating. And I do know why I've done it, because of the thing, right? But that's a bit annoying. And the Tigger onesie hit me hard. I was talking to my wife about our youngest daughter, who she seems to consider anybody that isn't the people that live in her house as just muggles. She doesn't want anything to do with them. She just wants to be at home, and it's lovely. And Lisa was asking about it, and I said, well, as a kid, I was always like, even at 4, I just wanted to sit and read, and everyone's like, oh, that's not socially acceptable. You have to come and bang pots together like the other boisterous. Be more boisterous. I didn't like it. I didn't like them. I didn't want to be around people. I now know why, obviously, but I didn't then. I think we need to just widen what socially acceptable is. That's what I think we should do.
Absolutely.
I don't know if any of that. Yeah, that's how my week's been. So, James, I'm starting with you because it's better a bit. What stupid thing have you been doing instead of what you were supposed to be doing this week?
Only reason
2 days.
The only reason you've asked is because it's meta and it's a little shit joke. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So in this week or 2 days, what I've noticed I've been doing, which we talked about in the game on Monday's episode, is leaving stuff at every single place I've stayed on this tour. And I've realized this because as I've started to go, hang on, where is that stylus? Hang on, I had a charger for that. Hang on, there was a plug. Hang on, I brought 4 pairs of pants with me. So I've left everything from relatively expensive electrical items to worn underwear, which is not a nice thing to have to turn it up to a room to clean if you're a cleaner, even if it's in Germany. And woman's in the title, Alex, as you said in the last in the last episode. I
Wow.
am leaving stuff everywhere, and I do checks. And I'm normally with Sam and sometimes with Jack, and we'll do checks and make sure. But even when I was with Jack and leaving Norwich, we got in the car and he went, "Where's my phone?" And we had to go straight back from the car park to the accommodation and go in and grab the phone. It's obviously something we do, but I've just started to realize, particularly as I get tired, that's kind of that check that I've definitely got everything. It's obviously not accurate. What about you?
Working underpants?
No, they were good ones actually, and I did get down to just working underpants the other day, and I don't even like wearing them anymore. And I was looking at them thinking, "Oh, come on, really? Was there a ding there?"
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
Is it meta ding, Alex? In other words, it's not a ding at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're good pants. They're the good pants, and I've left them. What about you, Alex? What ADHD things? Because it's not going to be one. Have you been doing instead of what you're meant to be?
Chess again. I've managed to avoid chess for years. I got obsessed with chess more than once, and I got back into chess again. Worst fucking game ever for my ADHD. It's pretty much a game designed. The winner is the person that can hold attention for the longest on something not massively rewarding, and I'm back into chess, and it's so annoying.
I would love for you to watch my good friend Frankie play chess because it's possible he may have ADHD. I don't want to kind of out any neurodevelopmental disorder he may have, but I have never seen anything scarier, I think. And Frankie is 6'5". He's a fucking gorgeous he's just such a lovely guy. But when he plays chess, you can see the focus. You can see that it's a little bit like Mike Tyson before he walked into the ring. It's scary. And I've watched him play chess in person. When someone else moves and it takes the other person less than a second to move because they've already worked out the 6 possible moves and he's just staring and then bangs the timer. And I've watched him play online as well. And I can see him dragging pieces while the other person's waiting, and he's working out, right, well, if he does that, I'll do that. If he does that, I'll do that. The reward he gets from chess is so utterly rewarding that when we were at Marston Park and he was playing in person, I was speaking to him and he did not know I was there because it's laser-guided focus on this. And it's incredible that you've mentioned it. I'd just like you to play him because he'd fucking decimate you.
I did the exact same thing, except I haven't thought about it. So just make it. That'll do.
And that's clearly how it works. What about you, Sam?
Well, as you were saying, I'm really fucking tired and really busy at the minute. I've been struggling with headaches a lot because I'm working on my screen all day, and then before and after work I'm answering messages and stuff from the charity and doing admin for the charity. So, and then I'm just getting loads of headaches because I can't see. I'm just busy all the time. But I think because of that, I've been doing loads of things that are stupid as well. Like the other day, I got out of the shower and I just literally got out the shower, opened the window as I do to let the steam out, started cleaning the sink. And then when I finished cleaning the sink, I thought, oh my God, I'm freezing. Why am I so cold? And I looked down and I was dripping wet. I hadn't dried myself when I got out the shower. That's a good one.
Things are unrelated.
and the window was open. I was just dripping with water and soaking wet. And the other day when James was going, I think it was when you got back from Norfolk. And you were just about to set off.
I was about to say this because you didn't say this on Thursday, and I think this is brilliant.
Yeah, and I should have been spending time with you. But instead, as soon as I got home from work, I thought, the weather's nice. I might just prune that bush ding before I...
Can't even dig that. Can I just say, I can't even ding that would be a meta ding in and of itself.
Anyway, so I thought I'm just going to give that bush a quick prune, and before I knew it, the bush was just like, I can't even. It's just a stump. I've taken all the branches off, and I covered the garden in like branches, and then filled the bin with all the branches. And then I thought, what I'll do is I'll get rid of all this mulch from underneath the bushes. And I was really pleased. I was just doing it by the handful. It took me forever. And I was thinking, this is a really good thing I'm doing. And then afterwards I thought, how am I going to stop the weeds from coming up? I'm going to need mulch, which
No.
I'd just picked up. And then I realised as well, I'd filled the bin. And in fact, as James was driving off, I'm jumping up and down on top of the waste bin to try and get rid of all these branches.
In a massive wheelie bin, which is on gravel, so it's not stable, and it's full of branches which are all kind of twisted, and she's jumping
all
up and
over
down.
the top.
And she's barely spoken to me, and she's quite, she doesn't like me going away, and she's a bit nervous and anxious and upset, and she wants a bit of us time. And she's basically walked in and gone, "Hi, give me a hug," grabbed these shears, and then started cutting this bush up. And as I've got into the car, I've gone, "Right, I'm off there," and she's gone, "Oh, sorry," and then just run over to the bin and started jumping on this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I realised that actually you now have to pay for your garden waste collections.
Yeah.
And I decided that I wasn't going to do that. I was going to compost. Well, I've had to pay for it now because it was just full. So anyway, there was that. So I basically fucked the front garden, basically. The one that everyone sees.
In the spirit of metacognition, Sam, I'm just going through my little big beautiful book of Sam quotes. There's one here I like, which is, "I don't get headaches."
Yeah, I've been getting them a lot recently. And I think it's the vision thing, because when I eventually look away from my phone or the computer when I'm answering messages and stuff, I can't see, because I've been focusing at that range for so long. I can't actually see because I've just been, because we're getting more and more popular, guys. And anyway.
Do you remember, Sam, when James said a few days ago it's because you look at screens for so long, and you said very clearly, no, it isn't.
Is that true?
Yeah, I was there.
Well,
yeah.
I can't remember that, so it's not true.
Doesn't sound likely.
The next morning after the bush incident, I got up. So I get up really early in the morning, and I try and get some charity admin done before I start work. And if I can, I'll try and get a little bit of work done as well. So I'm doing that, and then thought, right, I better go down, have breakfast, and have a shower. So I went downstairs and just started cleaning the oven, which takes a long time, by the way. Like hours. I know. Yeah. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh, hang on. I should be at work by now. So I'm messaging my boss going, I'm just running a bit late this morning. And then ran upstairs and got a shower and then came downstairs, and the cats had brought a dead thing in, and I just couldn't cope with it at all, because I'm not good at dealing with things when they're dead. I'm better when they're, they've got to be in the mouse hospital or something.
That's on Alex's CV, isn't it? Basically, is skills and experience.
James normally deals with the dead thing, so it took me ages to just pluck up the courage to actually touch this dead animal, and then I was really, really late for work. It was really bad.
Did you literally pluck up the courage? Was it a bird? Was it a dead bird?
No, it was like I suppose a small rat.
A mouse.
Rat.
Mouse.
Yeah. or it was a small rat. Anyway.
All mice are is small rats.
No, they're not. I love rats. When I used to work in the prison, in the morning, I'd get there and I'd have them I was like the Pied Piper of rats. There'd be whole families running alongside me, and they're really quite big, like cats. They were beautiful. I loved them.
I like rats.
Wasn't the Pied Piper of rats the Pied Piper?
I thought he Pied Pipered children.
But rats
at the
first.
End.
Yeah.
That wasn't his job. That was more of a hobby.
They didn't hire him saying, "Can you come in and get rid of all our children, please?"
Absolute
and then didn't
infestation of children again. They're like rats.
I'm like the Pied Piper of rats. It's amazing.
That is incredible.
I can't remember what the Pied Piper was. Anyway, that'll do.
Well done. And that's okay. Fab. See you in the next part. I don't know.
Bye.
Green. Bye.
Oh, sorry.
Alex. Hi.
Aight. What's up? Hello, Governor.
Welcome back to episode 94 of the ADHD Adults podcast. That's episode 95. You misheard. As always, in part 2, we're taking questions from the ADHD adult community, whether it's the Instagrams or Twitters at the ADHD Adults, but obviously mainly the Discord. Hi, everybody. First one from Sarah ADHD AF. please could you explain this research article and whether it's worth using saffron? I haven't opened it. I'm really hoping somebody else has. It was it's a paper on the effectivity of saffron extract on treatment for children's. James, do you want to take that one for me?
Yeah. So I had a look, and we've briefly really touched on this in the past. And the reason we haven't gone into detail is because it's really fucking boring. But there are different levels of evidence, and therefore, if you see a website say a study showed, it doesn't mean that's reliable. So, for example, if you just took 10 people and gave them, in this case, saffron, or it could be lion's mane or omega-3, or kicked them in the bollocks, it doesn't matter. If you just took 10 people and then asked them how they felt about that, whether their symptoms were better, and they said yes, that would be very low quality evidence, because there's no control group, for example, so you're not comparing it to people that weren't kicked in the bollocks, and it's a very low sample size, which means you can't generalize that finding to the general population. It's not enough people to be statistically something that you would have confidence in. So therefore, there are levels of evidence. The kind of gold standard is what we would call a double-blind randomized controlled trial, where nobody, the investigators nor the participants, know what they're being given, if it's a medication, whether it's a placebo or not, until afterwards. And there are objective measures that are used rather than asking somebody. So evidence varies. And therefore, sometimes when you see a study shows, you have to kind of critically analyze it a bit. And if you look at this study, it was a non-randomized, non-blinded, pre-post intervention study. And that means basically they had two groups. 27 people were given methylphenidate and 36 were given saffron. So those numbers they're too low for this to be statistically trustworthy, because you would probably need, for the analysis they did, about 60 odd people in each group. And they looked in children, adolescents aged 7 to 17. And what they showed in this is that the efficacy, if you like, which is another word for effectiveness within a study, of saffron was comparable to that of methylphenidate. And what they've also said from this study is that saffron was more effective for treating the hyperactivity symptoms in children, whilst methylphenidate was more effective for inattentive symptoms. Now, this doesn't mean that's not true in critically analyzing it. It just means it's a poorly designed study, which we would call low quality evidence. So therefore, what I would say is don't rush out and buy saffron supplements.
It's dead expensive anyway, isn't it, surely?
No, the supplements aren't. It's low amounts of saffron in there. But again, I'm not saying it doesn't work. It might do. It's just that this is kind of low quality evidence, and therefore it's not something that's to make you rush out and try saffron. But there's often no harm in trying supplements.
So I've got a question. So I believe saffron to be effective, and I want it to be true, and my opinion counts as much as yours. But on the other hand, this is obviously bollocks, so I don't know what to believe.
But I think that's the thing with all the supplements, isn't it? There's just not enough evidence. So every time the answer is, I mean, it might be effective, but we haven't got the evidence to prove that. And this podcast is all about we only go on what we've got evidence for. So it might be, but we don't know.
The only thing we've ever found. Sorry, James, I should have put my hand. The only thing I think we've ever seen that with a little bit of slightly stronger evidence is omega-3, but it's still not super strong, is it?
No, it's not. So if you look at the evidence, it's mostly in children, and there are quite a few studies, and again, they all vary in quality. Some of them were double-blind, randomized controlled trials, and some of them were just we gave some kids omega-3, and some of them we looked at their food reports, their dietary reports, which everyone fucking lies on, and works out how much omega-3 they were getting from their diet. And what they've shown, if you look at them, is improvement, no improvement, things got slightly worse. And that gives you an idea about how that's what science is. It doesn't always agree, and you have to try and therefore make a consensus from studies, which we often do something called a meta-analysis, which is where you take the data from all those studies and create one big data set and show whether it's effective. And those meta-analyses often show for most things, no, actually, it's not.
We're a bit like James Dean and Marlon Brando rolled into one, aren't we? With our
we obviously are. So to get back to the question, Sarah, ADHD AF, saffron might help, but I wouldn't trust a study of this quality to certainly not take medication and take saffron instead.
Load of old bollocks, I reckon.
Yeah. Question 2. which I can't see who it's from, but it says, cheers, I keep losing and then finding things and then losing them again. Can I ask if you have any advice on following a certain way of eating for those who have ADHD who also struggle with compulsive overeating? So I'm guessing it's the second bit, not the first bit. So any advice for people who have a certain way of eating for those who have ADHD who also struggle with compulsive overeating?
Like
Anything else?
Focused, like concentrate on the question properly. Yeah. So advice on following. How do you
Yeah.
create like your diet that works for you? Because you can't go on a diet. Nobody in the world really can effectively. You have your diet and that's it. It's a noun, not a verb. It's a really, really good question. The answer is no. There's no one solution that fits everybody for ADHD or anybody else for following a diet. What I will say is that sleep is a big. No, it isn't. That's James in my head. Sleep is a big part of this, as he well knows, and working on your sleep can help with diet. Also, thinking, one thing that works really well is changing your plate size. If you're eating too much, you can literally change the diameter of your plate can help. Having a set time when you don't eat, so I won't eat after 7. Just anything that can trigger a little bit of routine in a brain that isn't geared up to loving routine. It's really a really, really difficult question, and you can probably get help from a coach or from go and see your GP if they'll let you through the blooming door at the moment with the political situation. What about you, James? You more your thing?
Yeah, as somebody who's a binge eater, I know a little bit about this, and obviously as somebody that's worked in behaviour change models in some of the studies, the key thing is we use the phrase adherability. Any lifestyle change that you want to kind of engineer, whether it's I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to engage in a certain activity, is only going to be as successful as your ability to stick with it. So, for example, when you look at different dietary patterns, if you compare all the different diets in rabbit ears, Alex is right, it shouldn't be a verb. So low carb versus low fat versus fasting versus, calorie restriction versus support groups like Weight Watchers. If you look at, again, grab all that data into one big data set, they're all as effective as each other. And that's because each individual person might work well with a low carb diet, but not with a low fat diet, and well with a calorie restriction diet, but not with fasting. So you need to find out what works for you if you want a better relationship with food. And that means trying to work out what foods you enjoy, making sure you still have them, because if you cut out all foods you enjoy, you're not going to stick to that eating plan. If you tend to find there are times of the day where you always eat and you try a fasting type diet and that excludes the times of the day when your family eat, that might not work. So you've got to try and work out what works for you. And in terms of the compulsive overeating, the other tip is, and it's hard, but don't have fun stuff in the house, because with compulsive overeating, if it's there, and particularly if it is at the level of an eating disorder, if it's there, the temptation will always be, for whatever your trigger is, I'll eat it. Sam?
Yeah, and actually, even if we haven't got it in the house, if you really want to eat, then we just get a taxi to go to the local petrol station and pick shit up for us to eat, don't we? So maybe deleting apps like that from your phone just to make it a bit more difficult to get food into the house. For me, the thing that works is distraction. If I just keep myself busy with other things, I can get, and probably this is related a lot to my hyperfocus as well. If I go into hyperfocus, I'm not going to eat. So it's probably not actually a good tip to give to people to put themselves into hyperfocus. But I just distract myself. I keep myself busy with other stuff, and then I don't think about eating. But then I don't struggle a lot with this, to be honest.
That word distraction is it is what it is. I would also say some people feel bad about themselves if I have to distract myself. I replace that term with, I find other rewarding things, or healthier rather than healthy things, that reward me at the same time. So I don't feel bad about feeling like I have to distract myself. I need to get a reward. I've got ADHD. It's a short-term emotional reward. What are my options? And put them on rotation, because nothing works forever, does it? Apart from, in my case, alcohol.
Okay, I think we've dealt with that. Sam, third question.
Right. Okay. Sorry. This is from Ellen. currently in hospital post-surgery, just routine kidney stone. Oh, this is an old one. Oh, you put these in, didn't you, James? Currently in hospital post-surgery, just done routine kidney stone zapping and removal, and was asked about eating and drinking regularly, which I kind of struggled to answer due to persistent hyperfocus issues, and got a strange look when mentioning that I forgot to eat, drink, and go to the bathroom often. That just tied into what I said before. Was wondering if you have any ideas on explaining in a relatable way, or maybe an analogy that would help. Side note, the stone was likely a result of this that I don't recommend. Staying hydrated is so hard. Ding.
Ding.
No, not ding.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh God, kidney stones.
That's why I picked the question, Sam, because I thought there was it related to the one earlier about eating patterns.
Clever.
Is it?
Yeah, that's difficult, and also relates to metacognition, because you've got to explain the things that you're thinking and why you don't do the things that you need to do, which is good. Alex, you're nodding. Go.
I was nodding along with where you were going. I liked it a lot. Yeah. So what I always used to tell people, now I probably still do actually, is I didn't used to like saying ADHD because of the stigma attached, and now, you know, I bully people about it, so it's fine. But I used to say I have a neurodevelopmental condition, and if you want me to explain that a bit more, I'm more than happy to. But you're going to have to take my word for it otherwise, because it's not my job to educate people. Well, I mean, it literally is, but it wasn't. And so firstly, I would say that. And if they acknowledge that they want to learn about it, then I'll tell them. And if they don't, which a lot of people used to do, if they go, "Oh, I don't believe in that. Have you tried trying harder?" I wouldn't engage. I would just tell them they need to understand this. That my job isn't to educate you. Your job is to have empathy, especially in a healthcare environment. What I would say is that when we overpay, just describing what hyperfocus is, and that attention, it isn't a lack of attention. ADHD always is. It's that we can pay too much, and that can lead to not doing life hygiene. That's what I would say. James, what about you? Anything to add for that?
I'd say always try and think, if you can, which we can't because we've got poor metacognition. Try and think of examples that normos might understand. So when you get lost in a good book and you read it, for so long that all of a sudden you realize it's dark outside, you don't realize how much time has passed. Well, you were so focused on the book, you didn't notice a change in your environment that most people would have noticed. If you try and think of the things that aren't just ADHD that people can focus on so much they don't really realize, it could be a book or a film, or when they're driving that they don't actually listen to a conversation, etc. They are examples of our attention being focused on one thing. The brain cannot deal with all the information that comes in, so it has to make the decision, I'm going to filter all that out and I'm just going to pay attention to this thing, because it can't deal with it. And therefore, whilst the brain is focusing or hyper focusing on something, it is ignoring the signals from your thirst receptors, or the part of your brain that tells you you're thirsty, saying you're thirsty, you drink. It's ignoring the signals from the brain saying you're hungry. It's ignoring the signals from your bladder saying I need to empty, because it's choosing to filter those out to focus on the thing you're doing.
It sounds like somebody's recently been to the Laturan dot. Am I correct?
Been to what?
Just to see Laturan dot. Haven't you not? Is that not what this is about? I only assume that's what.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know why I come to this.
Doesn't matter.
I really don't.
Sam, what about you? Any thoughts?
I think that was really good what you said about what?
Did you give yours? I can't remember.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I just read the question out.
Very true.
I think that's really good what you were saying about using things that like normal people. I don't know what that was. 3, 2, 1, dustbin. What normal people can think about. That's a really good thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good way to explain it. A lot of ADHD, actually, isn't it? Because it is an extreme.
But also, I need to make sure I drink more, because I really don't want kidney stones. I'm predisposed to them, apparently, according to my DNA.
Oh, yeah.
That and leprosy,
which we've already talked about.
We won't get back into that. So, drink more. How can we make sure we drink more? Alarms?
Yeah, I mean you can, but when you're in hyperfocus, you won't hear the alarm. There are practical things you can do, like as we do, like having specific containers of a set volume and making sure I'm going to drink 3 or 4 of those containers today, and even noting down if you have won't work every day. But in hyperfocus, you're just not going to, because you're not going to notice you're thirsty.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You don't even notice you're bleeding or in pain.
Oh, wow.
I do love how awkward Alex feels when you mention female issues. Anyway,
Menstruation.
Oh, I
Yep.
thought it was just you with your dodgy toe.
no.
Remember when I was
didn't
standing the
notice
room
that.
down and I bled all through my clothes and I was in loads of pain and I was really hungry and thirsty and tired. Yeah.
No, don't remember.
Anyway, we'll take a break, and in part 3, we will give thoughts on this week's theme and podcast.
Well done.
Strong trumpet.
Welcome back to episode 95 of the ADHD Adults podcast, the week in ADHD 21, where we're talking about our thoughts on this week's theme and podcast, which was metacognition.
Yes.
James. What made you choose the last idea for a theme? Sorry, I literally haven't looked at the script this week.
I didn't. Alex did, actually.
Wow.
Alex decided to do metacognition. I agree, it's something that's really important because we've talked about it and we mention it in little talks, etc. But obviously nobody knows what it is, because even the name is a bit daunting. Even when you say cognition, some people might not know what cognition is, but they're meta. They're not easy terms to understand. But then, as we could see in Monday's episode, as we went through the psychoeducation, Sam went from I've got no fucking idea what's going on to, oh God, yeah, I'm really shit at this. And therefore, I think it could be helpful for people to understand that we are not the best at working out how often our symptoms occur, but we're actually quite good at working out the impact they have on our lives. And I find that fascinating. That we can kind of external things like, well, I've got relationship issues, my boss is unhappy with me, I'm in loads of debt. Those objective external things we can record, but our thought processes, we struggle to actually pay attention to them and describe them effectively. So I just thought it was really interesting. Sam, what about you?
Getting fed up of saying this now. I have no editorial rights on this podcast whatsoever.
None.
I didn't choose the theme. I didn't even look at the script this week, as you might have noticed. I've totally dialed it in. What about you, Al?
Well.
Thanks.
I just wanted to do meta jokes. I think that's fairly obvious, and bloody good ones too.
They were successful.
Oh God, I laughed so hard, and I've read them out to so many people because they made me laugh so much. And then when I realised that it's just me, it just makes me happier. We get asked a lot to explain it because it isn't an easy concept to understand at all. And I think after about the 5th or 6th time someone's come up and said, can you do that on the podcast? Can you describe that a bit more? What is it and what does it mean? Then I just started writing it. I think that was it really. Was there anything on the a theme, a thought, or a tip that you forgot to say, Sam, or that obviously in your case you literally just thought of and could add?
I haven't really thought of anything. I just find it fascinating that, like, when James, if we're having a chat about, we try and communicate effectively, which we're really shit at actually, but you're better than me, and you'll sit down and you'll go, how are you feeling? Explain to me. And I just can't. And I find it fascinating that, some people can and some people can't, because I literally, I cannot, I don't know how I'm feeling, or
you can carry on.
I can't explain, even if I'm aware slightly that I'm sad, say, I can't explain why or what's made me feel that way. And I find that fascinating.
So again, we've mentioned that word alexithymia, and I think we do need to do an episode on this, that kind of inability to know or explain how you're feeling. And I think that the other night when we had a chat, and you said to me, I can't tell you how I'm feeling. I don't know the words to describe. I'm not sure. You weren't right. You weren't kind of happy. You weren't necessarily sad, but you said, I just can't tell you how I feel. And that is...
with everything as well. Like if I've got like a physical ail, if there's something wrong with me, if I'm ill or something, I can't describe what's going on in my body. Sometimes I don't even know if it's pain or discomfort. I don't understand what's happening. So then it's really hard to go to a doctor and say, I know something's wrong, but I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you what my symptoms are. And I find it fascinating that some people absolutely know. And yet I feel like sometimes I know I can feel everything in my body at the same time, but I can't describe what's going on. It's just really, really bizarre. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, I know.
What about you, James?
I just find it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you should have said, really, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it is, isn't it?
But we'll go with that. So again, I suppose it's reinforcing the fact that once you are aware of this, which hopefully people will be after the podcast, they'll be more aware that, oh God, actually, yeah, I am not very good at thinking about, my thought processes and my cognitive abilities and my symptoms. It is just to reinforce that other people around you might be more aware. Other people around you almost certainly will be more aware. I mean, Sam, we've talked about this before, as she was going through titration, which she's now just finishing, saying, I don't know, these meds aren't working, I don't get it. And objectively from the outside, she'd like literally gone from spending hours and hours lay on the bed, hating herself on her phone, to working so long and so hard, to the point that I would get annoyed that she wasn't spending time with me, and selfishly. We just don't know. So, if you're not sure about something, ask those people close to you. And again, write things down. Because of my bipolar, I have to keep a mood diary. So I have to write down every day what my mood is on a scale of 0 to 10, because that can help me spot when I'm going into a low, or maybe look for triggers for when I'm going into a low. And it's the same with your symptoms. You can, if you remember to, write down symptoms to try and help you be more aware of them. So those are the things that I would say. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to add was that we can't do this for everything we think about and everything we feel. Nobody can, but we're generally worse at it on average. So I would say that if there are things that aren't that big a deal, and it's just who you are, that's sort of all right. Emotional acceptance, blah, blah, blah. And because like whenever we're masking or coping strategies, a lot of the reasons we're successful is because we put that emotional energy into something maybe that hurts, that's difficult for us, but don't put emotional energy into lots of other things. So think about the things that actually affect you or your relationship or your work, where metacognition would help, and maybe really focus on those things. So if it is, for example, the strengths maybe in your job that you want to build on, rather than just every aspect of your work life, or an element of your relationship. In my case, I really have to work on if we're in an argument and I don't actually know if I'm being insane or not. That's something I really work quite hard on, but then I let a few of the other things go. So really think about it. Are the consequences of this dire or something that I care about? And really maybe put the energy into thinking on those. What I would say is that there's no evidence that coaching works for ADHD, because the evidence isn't there yet. As a coach, I find that amusing. And we're an evidence-based organization. But there is evidence that things like coaching and therapy work for a lot of the things that people with ADHD can struggle with. And metacognition is one of those. Because you're not going to sit in a room on your own for an hour and go, right, Alex, how did you feel? Who could help me with that? You're not. If you were, you wouldn't need a coach. So it might be worth getting someone, a loved one, if you haven't got money for a coach or group coaching or something, get someone to just sit with you and ask you those questions. You can give them the questions, give them a sheet of Kipling's Honest Serving Men, James, and ask them to ask you back, what's going on with you? Why do you think that is? And don't know's okay, it's fine. Those are the things I would have said, I think.
So
right,
you're aware. Sorry,
yeah.
Just quickly. So you're obviously aware of Kipling, but you couldn't name one Christopher Nolan film, and you finally got kind of Memento at the end. I mean, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I've never even heard of him.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a surprise to anyone. You don't know what Le Turandot is. You've heard of Nessun Dorma, though, presumably.
Yeah.
For the love of...
Is it the same thing?
Well, it's a song from. I'm not. Even, I can't even.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. This is good, actually. I've just realised that we get loads of people asking, like, I'm going for diagnosis and I've got to fill out all these questions and say how my ADHD affects me, and I don't
Yes.
know.
No.
So I've just realised, I've only just, now that we're ending, realised that this is to help those people that, you know, we can say to them, ask other people or write things down over a longer period. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, I've just realised what
Amazing.
this is all about.
You've meted the meta. I can't think of a better place to say that was episode 95 of the ADHD Adults. And it was the possibly last ever Thursday extra edition, not really, of the ADHD Adults podcast after Monday's episode on metacognition and ADHD. If you like this nonsense and want to get involved, please contact us on the socials at the ADHD Adults and the Discord channel, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, Pigeons, I don't know. Have a lovely weekend. Goodbyes.
Bye.
See ya.
Trigger warning klaxon, 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 big klaxon. Trigger warning klaxon, 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 klaxon.